It's time to get you caught up with all things sports.
Yes! 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 Yes!
On the throw-in.
One thing is certain. None of this is possible without you, the listeners.
From baseball, football, wrestling, and more, covering local Cincinnati sports, stories, news, and highlights.
Why is he always calling me?
With your host, Justin Trento.
When this all said and done, we're going to look back and remember this is what started it all.
Available on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Let's play the ball! Let's play the ball!
Alrighty, what is going on, everyone, and welcome to another evening edition of The Throw-In. My name is Justin, and you guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I'm excited to be here. Let me just tone down my screen here for the next 2 hours. And we got a bunch of stuff to talk to you about, a bunch of breaking news, developing news in the world of sports. And, you know, I was trying to put together a little bit of, all right, what am I going to talk about tonight? Because tomorrow I was insisted of just kind of covering the Super Wild Card Weekend matchups, right? And that's going to be big for me. And so I can't wait to get to tomorrow. But, you know, I was coming up with some stories. There was a couple of things I was learning. I talked a lot about football back earlier this week. I wanted maybe to catch up a little bit on professional wrestling, talk a little deeper into the Cincinnati Reds, and maybe look at the free agent tracker for Major League Baseball as offseason kind of starts lingering closer to time to spring training. And is there a potential couple key? Could the Reds make a move? I know that Cincinnati has claimed that they're done for the offseason, but there's still so many players that are available that it wouldn't hurt if the Reds add another at bat, right? Or yet again, add another starting pitcher or add another relief pitcher. Anything to kind of help boost their roster, even if they're minor league deals, right? And so that was one thing I kind of want to look. There was a couple of guys I actually had a key eye out on that could potentially, I would like to see maybe a Cincinnati Reds, even if it's for 1 year. But we got to start off with the breaking news here, everybody. We're going to start off in college football, as it was announced that Nick Saban has officially stepped down and retired, parted ways with Alabama today, and officially retired from head coaching spot for Alabama. Now, Nick Saban's career, man, it's been phenomenal for the last decade, just dominating Alabama, with Alabama, several championships. One probably going to go down one of the best head coaches of all time. Career records, he's in 28 years, he's 297 wins, 71 losses, and one tie with a winning percentage of 806%, which is outstanding. And then bowl records in 31 games, he's 19-12, a 613 winning percentage. You just go down the records here from Toledo to Michigan State, LSU, Alabama from 07 to 23. That's 11, 12, 13, 14, 16 years as head coach for Alabama, one of the most notifying college programs there. Last bowl game they played was losing. They ended up losing to it was the Cotton Bowl. They won the college football playoffs. They ended up losing, and then they won back in 2020. They always find themselves in these top bowl games. They were in Nick Saban's time. They were since 2015. They were in 6 college football playoff national championships, and he was 3-3 in college football championships, winning. He didn't get off to a great start in bowl games, picking it up later after winning a couple of BCS championships, independent bowls, Peach Bowl, Sugar Bowl. So, man, and this is kind of just that domino effect, one after the other, because there's a couple other coaches that we're going to be talking about here opening up the program. But Nick Saban officially retiring, and it's going to be a different atmosphere for Alabama moving forward. And I want to wish him the best and luck, whatever he decides to do down the road. Man, it's going to change the dynamic. Is Alabama still that leading threat? My question is what head coach on this planet Earth can fill in the shoes of Nick Saban in Alabama? That's my question. For the success that he's had for the past 16 years in Alabama, you just don't think of another coach that could potentially come in and do what he's done, develop a program and maintain a standard of a program, because let's face it, Alabama's one of those high standard programs each and every year on and off the field. Okay, you hear those crazy stories of practices where players get cut for stupid reasons. So you ask yourself, who is available right now to be the head coach of Alabama, because that's a tough job to do. And two, if there is another head coach out there, he's going to have some big shoes to fill right off the bat. And, he's going to have to obviously stick with the program. So is this going to, and does it change the dynamic of how Alabama plays moving forward? Is their dynamic changing along with it? So, a lot of, I'm going to say a lot of, I throw a lot of red flags, maybe not red flags, yellow flags, but there is still plenty of, moving forward. You're going to see a completely new dynamic out of Alabama. Well, we're moving on to the news as it kind of just all start unraveling, and I'm going to jump into this one here. Pete Carroll and Seattle Seahawks decide to part ways from each other. And, this is just one of my things growing up, that when I really started getting into football, Pete Carroll and Seattle, they just kind of mixed together. Seattle misses the playoffs this year, and this one came to me a bit of a shock to see, but I think, at some point in time, we'd have to come to terms that Pete Carroll and Seattle would be parting ways. I think Pete Carroll, with all due respect, I think Pete Carroll has done everything he could possibly do, not only in the NFL, but especially in Seattle, right? Would you like to get back to the postseason? I don't think anybody expected Pete Carroll to work so perfectly with Geno Smith last year to get back to the postseason. Okay, and they shocked a lot of people. Okay, they were supposed to be a team. When the whole deal with Russell Wilson leaving to Denver, you bring in Geno Smith. I think people expected them to finish in the bottom 10 in the NFL last season, but yet they found a way to be able to win enough games to get to the postseason. And so trying to they were on a nice path this year, came up short. So for me, it comes to a little bit of a surprise. And, I hope that, if this is where Pete Carroll signs off at, Pete Carroll, from my understanding, Pete Carroll's up there. He's 72 years old. Okay. Does he have a few more years maybe in college sports? I don't know. I can't necessarily put that timetable on that. But maybe his career from when, ends up being hung up. Maybe he takes not a head coaching position no more. Maybe he takes more of an office route. Maybe someone that now calls up in the booth. But his run has surely come and gone. Been exciting. Now this last one, breaking news. It's not really breaking news. It's been there the last couple of weeks. We kind of was just waiting, sitting on our hands, waiting for this deal to kind of just officially unfold, and that is Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots also officially parting ways. And this one, I think, when you think of think of Bill Belichick, you think of the New England Patriots, and you think of the what is the word? Dynasty that he carried New England. Now, I have a little bit different thoughts of an opinions when it comes down to Bill Belichick. Is he a future Hall of Famer? Absolutely. Hands down. I build me a case that argues against that. The only case I would, and if I could argue against any of that, has to be, well, you can argue that it was the team that was built for Bill Belichick in a decade-long run, or decade-plus long run, that led them to several Super Bowl championships. And I don't think Bill Belichick would have had that many Super Bowl championships if it weren't for key guys like Moss and Brady and Gronkowski and Ederman. So a lot of his credit had to do with the talent that was stacked before him. And you quickly saw that when Tom Brady leaves Tampa Bay and that team just starts slowly crumbling to average Joes, I think there was a lot of people expecting or thinking, hey, Bill Belichick could develop and can mentor young talent into championship teams. And that didn't happen. And I felt, for me, it was in the back of my mind that I just kept asking myself, is it a Belichick thing or is it a Patriot thing? Because I feel like now, hey, he's done his due diligence in New England and he's brought you all those championships. Well, now you're looking at, when is it time to part ways? Belichick wants to prove to everyone that he can still do or have success without Tom Brady, which he has not yet proven. And then New England's like, well, you've done us a service for all these years. How hard it is. This is another change of scenery that's going to be maybe a bit of a nail biting to get used to, because we're not used to, when you think of Bill Belichick, you think of the Patriots, and right now it's up in the air for Pete Carroll. It's up in the air for Belichick for new coaching jobs and the position that they could get. And you talk about for weeks we've been talking, sports has been talking about Bill Belichick and what he could potentially do. Well, the Chargers are out there. Washington's out there. Now Seattle's out there. Tennessee's out there. Atlanta's out there. So could we see Bill be in a different uniform come next season because he's maybe thriving? Hey, let me just take a chance at another team. If I'm Bill Belichick, though, I'm going to say this. I want to be on a team that's kind of already established, that I could go in, that I have mature guys, talented guys, ready to go win a championship. We got to have that mentality. You can't go, hey, I'm going to throw you out there. You're going to have to break down and develop all these guys. You got to bring in a coaching staff to really sit there and work with these guys. We're looking on a 2, 3, maybe even a 4-year plan, for success. No, they have to be ready today, and they have to be ready to go. When you look at that list right now in the NFL is very narrow, especially looking for head coaching jobs. I do not see a team out there other than maybe just possibly the Chargers that are ready to take it to that next step, just with the right head coach behind the reins. And even if you're looking at the Chargers are probably having higher priorities in, all right, I'm going to be looking at, Vrabel, who just got released from Tennessee earlier this week. I'm looking at Harbaugh, if he's interested in coming back to the NFL. And I'm sure Jim is looking to come back to the NFL to, gain a head coaching position, because that's the only thing he's missing is a Super Bowl ring. He's done it in college level, and he only came close in the NFL, just he came up short. So those are just the list of if Pete Carroll looking for a head coaching job, if Bill's looking to continue his career, it may be a bit of a struggle, but it's also going to just probably be a bit awkward seeing them in a different uniform with wearing a different logo. So those are stories that are kind of just developing over the last 24 hours, kind of shaking up the NFL world. And it's exciting because as we have 14 teams trying to fight for the Super Bowl over the next month. We sit here and we are already seeing the Black Friday cuts, the new signings, the head coaching positions kind of start developing and who's officially released. And one thing I do appreciate about this, and I know that this is these conversations are kind of maybe taking over the NFL from the playoff picture right now, but these are stories that need to be developed. There's no perfect time to sit here and say, Bill Belichick, hey, I'm sorry, we're going to let you go. Pete Carroll, adios. So when you look at when is the right time, you're just wasting time if you wait until after the Super Bowl. A lot of teams like to wait their due diligence and respect after the Super Bowl to officially make those announcements. They're making them announcement this week. All right. So as far as what we have on the radar for today, we got some football conversation still underway. I do want to transition to some baseball conversation here this afternoon. Talk about the Cincinnati Reds. I mentioned at the beginning of the program that they have some options. They I know they proclaim that the offseason is done for them, but there's still so many great talents out there, and it wouldn't hurt to just keep on adding to that roster that they're trying to build for a playoff run, that they have a very, very good case at this season. And it's also hard to sit back and watch other teams go out and pick up all these guys. So we'll talk a little bit about the Cincinnati Reds. I want to dive into WWE conversations because we are on the road to the Royal Rumble. We're on the road to WrestleMania. What could we start seeing take shape as soon as now, as we head to I would say the favorite time of the year in April. So that is still all the way to come. All right, we're going to take our first time out. If you guys are on our Facebook or our YouTube channel, be sure to button, have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. Head on over to our website for www.tncsportstalkshow.com, where you can find all of our audios, our blogs, everything about our podcasts and more. You can find at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. All right, we're going to take a break. Come on back. We'll talk some more sports with you. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, well, welcome back to another episode, and the throw-in is given to you thanks to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. We can create podcasts, videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. You know, if you guys missed the news earlier this week about the channel, we are changing, just kind of cutting back a little bit to fill in all the fill in these shows. So announced on Tuesday that we'll be cutting down to 3 shows a week. Did one on Tuesday, doing one tonight. Going to wrap up the week with a show on Friday. It's expected to have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, but this is where it's allowed for some room, some wiggle room to be like, all right, well, maybe I'm not feeling good Monday. I could do one, Tuesday, or I had a lot of stuff happen on Wednesday. I could do one Thursday, this and that. So it allows the schedule to be flexible, as well as still providing enough time to get a lot of content in. It's going to make us crack down. Gives me more time to find more content. Sometimes doing a 5-day show, 5 shows a week deal, you kind of start lacking some content here and there. So this kind of helps us, to kind of spread all of that out. So a little bit more on NFL football news, as we, found out today in the last 24 hours, actually, that Alabama's Nick Saban has retired, which is some pretty big news in my opinion. Going to change the dynamic of Alabama football, and I just don't think anyone at this moment. There's no one on the list. Please tell me if I'm wrong. That can live up to what Nick Saban has done with the Alabama program. So, what does this do for the school? What does this do for Alabama's football program moving forward? And, with the standards, with just with everything. So that's some pretty big news. Bill Belichick officially, wasn't surprising, but we knew that it was coming this offseason. Just when he's officially no longer a Patriots. Whether he continues to coach somewhere else will be the question that we look towards during the offseason. I think, as I said in the opening segment, my belief is that if he finds a team with the right pay, he can be another head coach for another NFL team. My concern with that is that it has to be a winning team today. That it has to be, hey, you're missing that missing link, okay, and which is going to be the head coach, or hey, we are missing one guy that we're going to get in the draft this year. And that's, then you're going to take the reins. And you also have to be able to play very similar football style that Belichick has run for the past 20 years, right? But if you're Belichick, if you find the right team, I don't know. See, I don't want to tell a man it's time to hang it up, or to retire and walk off into the sunset. I think if Belichick gets an opportunity to go back to the playoffs or even another Super Bowl run, I say take it and walk off on a higher note. Gronkowski got an opportunity to do so. Tom Brady has got an opportunity to do so. Bill Belichick probably does deserve an opportunity to do so. But the longer you continue to coach without success, okay, just shows to me, makes me question exactly how good of a quarterback or not quarterback, but head coach you were during the time of success, and how much of that was the Patriots' talent around them. Look at Mike Tomlin. He's kind of been able to take any team you've thrown in front of him and make it a successful team for having 17 consecutive seasons with a winning record. I don't know about you, but that's incredible. So, off-season conversation is Bill Belichick. Same goes with Pete Carroll, right? Something that came to me a bit of a surprise, because I haven't been toggling that type of information out there in Seattle recently. Could he continue to head coach? Possibly. I don't see that his time is technically up if he wanted to go with a different team. It's also about finding that right team. If Pete Carroll goes to, let's say, Tennessee, Washington, and doesn't have success, oh well. I still think Pete Carroll is a candidate down the road for a Hall of Fame slot, but it doesn't weigh more to me compared to Bill Belichick. And I think Bill Belichick rides on if he finds another team that he has to win. So those are the three big news coming out of the football world within the last 24 hours. Something else that kind of really, drew my attention earlier this week, which kind of now puts or embeds a little bit of a game plan in what they're going to do moving forward, is the Chicago Bears. They just earlier this week, they ended up firing a handful of offensive coaches. Offensive coordinator Luke Gesty, quarterback coach Andrew Janocko, wide receiver coach Tyke Tolbert, running back Omar Young, and tight end Tim Betts. Chicago's head coach Mike Eberflus is going to need not only an offensive coordinator but a defensive coordinator. And when Chicago is at the point where they're cleaning house. Okay, a handful of years ago, they hired all the coaches. They did their due diligence in the draft by picking up Justin Fields, which, by the way, I'm a Justin Fields fan. I have been. Okay. As a matter of fact, when it came down to the draft back in 21, I went Fields over Lawrence. And at first, I did not like the combination of Chicago and Fields put together. I didn't like it. And it's grown over me. Is he the quarterback for the Chicago Bears? I don't think so. And it's not as I don't think so because he's a bad quarterback, as I don't think so because Chicago has yet to learn to build a team around him. He's not a 6'7" guy that can move out of the pocket and, look over his offensive lineman. He's a guy who has to wiggle in and out of space, and he may get lucky. So what team could you possibly find that could work with that caliber? Like I say, he's grown over me over the last 2 years in Chicago. I just think Chicago has a lot has a lot to learn. And here's my biggest thing. When you go hire a set of offensive coaches to start forming a team together, hopefully in hopes to winning a championship, they bring in their quarterback that they want. They bring in their running back they want. They bring in the tight ends and the receivers that they want. And now, since all of these guys, especially Luke Gesty, the offensive coordinator, is out of the picture, what do? You end up going through. You're right now looking at Chicago's showing out a big sign. They get the number one pick of this year's draft. So they have a very big decision to make, and they may have tipped their cap in the sense of, hey, I'm picking a quarterback to replace Justin Fields as we bring in these new coaches. And I'm looking at the top 9 quarterbacks right now eligible entering in this year's draft. And there's maybe a handful of guys that I think I grown to as favorites. Caleb Williams from USC, Jaden Daniels from LSU, Bo Nix from Oregon, Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. We just saw a couple weeks ago, earlier this week, a matter of fact. Sanders from Colorado, JJ McCarthy from Michigan, who just won that championship, and that may bolster his chances of getting that number 1, number 2 pick up there. So there are a few quarterbacks on that list. Is the next franchise quarterback sitting in this year's draft for Chicago Bears? And if you're asking me, if I had to weigh in my opinion on maybe how I'd run things, I wouldn't be so quick to leave Justin Fields out there. I'll just put it that way. Justin Fields has put up a 60% completion rating over his years with the Chicago Bears. He's thrown for 6,474 yards total with 40 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. Now you say, look, wow, 30 interceptions, that's 10 under the touchdown completions that he's had. And yes, that is a problem. But a lot of that does with size. A lot of it does with patience and accuracy that I think in a league you may need to adjust to, because this is not the AFC. We don't run the ball. We don't run these snob plays. It's the Chicago Bears, and they're going to throw at the ball. And, Justin Fields, he's above average from your average quarterbacks in the NFL today. That's rating about 58%. So is he anything special? Absolutely not. He's not your Patrick Mahomes of the NFL. He's far from it. You're not going to see it. But is he rating a little bit better than a guy like maybe Mitchell Trubisky? Sure. Is he rating a guy better than a Cooper Rush or a Jacoby Brissett? Yeah. Okay, he's definitely not ranking number 32 in the quarterback rankings, in my opinion. But this is how I would draw out the line for the Chicago Bears heading into this postseason. If you go quarterback route for the draft, number one pick, and I would, because all quarterbacks, your number one pick, in order to start a franchise, in order to start a winning record, it's going to revolve around your quarterback. And if you miss your number one pick, man, you're going to be held back. Okay. I mean, and you're not the Houston Texans that were able to take a leap of faith and, try to wiggle their way in. And now you have this first time ever rookie head coach and, rookie quarterback making it to the playoffs this year. But you pick up a rookie quarterback in the number one overall pick. I think the Bears have another pick later on in the draft, which then you could go for some other secure, some insurance. But then this is what you do. You keep Fields in there. You train this other quarterback. You give it a year or two. You see if Fields could finally, with maybe a little bit of pressure underneath him, knowing that there's a backup quarterback ready to take his spot, or maybe he takes a back seat for the next year. Before you decide to trade him or depart ways with him, you kind of milk every last ounce that you have for him. And then you decide, maybe he'll become somebody finally. But getting rid of him this year, I think, would be unnecessary. I think the Bears have a golden opportunity to pick up another quarterback, kind of have them run each other, work with each other for the next year, maybe even two, and then determine where you're going to go out, because there's no chances that one of these guys are going to be able to, are going to be your next big star in that sense. So one of my biggest stories, because I've been paying attention towards Chicago and the Bears the last couple of weeks. I know there's a lot riding on the decision on what to do with Justin Fields as quarterback, because Colin Cowherd from the Herd, if you listen to their show daily, there's a rule of thumb that he's made that I have to go with each and every time we talk about quarterbacks, or and it kind of, there's a standard that you kind of give. Rookie quarterbacks should be given about until Thanksgiving, week 12 of their second year. And in order to really be able to judge them if they're going to be a future starter for a franchise or not. And unfortunately, Justin Fields has not made that effort to really be one. He's not, in my opinion. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't go into, it doesn't mean that he can't go into, a lesser team that has less expectations. He does something special. It just means that he wouldn't be my first number one overall pick. And it's a problem because I like the guy. I like the kid. So, All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come on back, talk more sports, bottom half of hour number 1 coming up next. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty. Well, wherever you guys are at, if you guys are baseball lovers, I'm telling you a lot of big news coming out of the baseball world. We'll talk a little bit about Cincinnati Reds here for a moment, here at the bottom half of hour number 1. Not really quite the story I want to get to that I will cover at the top of hour number 2, but it's baseball season that's right around the corner because the Red Caravan stops in Lawrenceburg, January 23rd, as the Reds Caravan returns this year. So that this was published Thursday today, as a matter of fact, that you have Ian Gibbott, Chase Petty, Edwin Arroyo, Jay Allen II, and former catcher Corky Miller, Vice President Player Development Sean Pender, Reds Valley Sports broadcaster John Sadak, and Brian Glizenblock. I said that right, excuse me. They will be in Lawrenceburg Monday, January 22nd. And then radio broadcaster Tommy Thrall will be on Tuesday, January 23rd. For Q&A sessions, autograph signings, and so forth. That's the only list I was able to actually come up with a little bit. But I don't know about you. I haven't seen a Major League Baseball. It was actually just maybe 5-6 years ago, honestly, when not even longer than that, was 7-8 years ago when I discovered that there's things like FanFest. Reds have a fan fest out here at it was Duke Energy Center, Convention Center in downtown Cincinnati. They, and I think this is kind of strange. So they charge people to go into the convention center to interact with the ball players or certain selected ball players. I remember going, when I was living in San Diego, Petco Park would open themselves up one day throughout the year. It's absolutely free. You just got to redeem a ticket, so they kept track of who was all there. But you went in and you just got a chance to explore the park. You got a chance to be out on the field, go in the dugout, go in the locker room, go in the backstage area, and kind of just really soak it all in. From my understanding, they kind of stopped that last season or this year because it gets crowded. Like, it's terrible how bad it gets because of the Padres are winning so much. But the cool thing I think happens here in Cincinnati is before they head out to camp next month, at the end of January, they do something for for a week or two called a caravan, where they head up, Cincinnati's area. They'll head up to Dayton. They'll head down south to Lexington. They'll head to Indiana. They'll head to West Virginia, just in the radius of where you could listen to Reds baseball. And they kind of send a few players out to the locations to do Q&As. And I don't know. You don't really get much out of it. I don't really find the interest in it, but it's something that people attend. Would it be nice to maybe attend one of these? Sure, why not? I wouldn't complain. It wouldn't hurt, but I just don't attend. I wouldn't attend to meet one. But no, so the Reds have done some few things. And one thing we talked about earlier this week was, what can you improve on? Well, the Reds picked up a lefty for the bullpen, former Colorado relief pitcher Brent Sutter. and he'll be added to the bullpen roster. And I think this is a neat addition, to this roster. You need another lefty. You need some guy who can really put in perspective that can, eat up some innings. 34 years old, from Chicago, so playing a little bit closer to home. He was drafted from Milwaukee, so I'm pretty sure he's familiar with this division here. In the 31st round of the 2012 draft, June amateur draft, actually, from Harvard University. He has, last year, he recorded a .8 WAR. He was 4-3 with a 3.38 ERA. In 57 games, he started in 2 of them, pitched in 69. So he's going to kind of eat up some depth in that bullpen. Because, listen, this was one of the biggest things that I was talking about. Where can you potentially, where can you sit there and actually improve? And that's going to be the bullpen. And the Reds have done a few things to help themselves out in that bullpen. Picking up Brent Sutter is to help out in that bullpen. Let me get to this one here. And I just saw it earlier, so let me go back to the news here. Some transactions that happened. Roster moves as of today agreed to terms of 1-year contracts and avoided arbitrations with TJ Antone, Jake Fraley, Lucas Sim, Tyler Stevenson, and Alex Young. You can see this on the Cincinnati Reds at Reds X account. And I think this is a pretty big list that you start, kind of filing down. You see Tyler Stevenson, which I think there could be a conversation of extending his contract even further. I think, you kind of need the one thing the Reds have yet to do today. Okay. The Reds have sat there and picked up or gave the contract extension to Hunter Green, right? Because you then now has created this pitching rotation, bullpen rotation that you could build around. All right, we're going to build around this right-handed pitcher, Hunter Green. We feel like he has the it factor. He could throw 100 miles an hour, control a little bit more, but we feel like he could develop. We gave him a contract extension. We think that over the next several years, he could be that guy that we based our rotation around. Nick Lodolo was paired up with them. Graham Ashcraft. I understand you can't keep everybody, but if you could keep 1 or 2 of them, great, because that provides depth in our rotation. And then we have now 2 more spots filled with that we can fill in with younger guys, especially lefties, because the lefties, in my opinion, are so rare in the league. Well, you got Andrew Abbott, Brandon Williamson, all down there looking to come up throughout the course of the year. Well, in the meantime, what has the Reds done? They picked up Frankie Montes, Nick Martinez, Brent Sutter here on the other hand. He's a lefty. So you got a couple righties, you got a couple lefties. We always know that injuries play a effect here in Cincinnati in that starting rotation as well in that bullpen. So, we're kind of starting to build. All right, we're starting to address what we need to address. It's nothing fancy, like I mentioned, but we are addressing that elephant in the room. TJ Antone, I like this. Lucas Sim, I like it. Alex Young, I like it also. These are guys that if they could stay healthy, they could become an asset to this bullpen late in the games. I told you back here earlier this week, the number one thing they cannot do is eat up innings in that bullpen anymore. It cannot happen. I don't care who you think you are, but a winning championship does not eat up innings in the bullpen there. You got to have these starters give you solid outings. I'm talking about 5 minimum. Give you 6, even 7 innings. And listen, this isn't the rookie year of Hunter Green no more. This isn't the rookie year of Graham Ashcraft. I expect these guys, and the guys they brought in, Frankie Montes, Nick Martinez, I'm expecting them. I have expectations that they sit here and they give you solid outings. There's no excuses. Or you know what? I'm telling you again, they're not going to make it to the playoffs. But picking up some guys there, Jake Fraley, another re-side as well, a good lefty in that outfield. That's just part of the Reds' move this year. And Bob Nightingale posted here on Twitter. Free a veteran. Be nice maybe if I follow Bob Nightingale. He's a good guy. A veteran free agent first baseman Joey Votto, the beloved former Cincinnati Reds, 6-time All-Star and MVP, has 3 teams now expressing interest in him. You know, could one of those teams be the Reds? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. It, like I mentioned, I wish Joey Votto the best. I really wish that Joey Votto did not leave this ball club. If you're asking me, last year, and this is what I hate about it. Okay, it's the same thing I hated about Adam Wainwright. 2 years ago, he went on the say, all right, with Albert Pujols coming back to St. Louis, with Yadier Molina wanting to retire with Pujols in one final year, you know what? I'm going to give one final run. And you know what? They did. Then Pujols and Molina retired. Well, guess what? Wainwright came back. He couldn't leave. And you just ruined a picture perfect moment. I got sentimental, and I don't even like all 3 of them put together. Why ruin something so delicate and perfect as you have a trio of guys who was brought up and raised St. Louis baseball. Pujols leaves for a decade, comes back because he wants to retire. And I mean, and then you play one more year. I don't get that. I don't like it. Votto, he didn't go out there and say that, hey, I'm retiring, you guys. But would it have been nice to to let him retire as a Reds? I mean, the Reds fans were giving him the ovation and the sensation of, hey, if this is your final year, thank you. In hopes that it was. And now he is wanting to play one more year. And I get that. Don't blame him. But you can't blame the Reds for not wanting to keep him. They got other things going on. They're moving forward because we can't hold back anymore. And so it's bittersweet. My proposal is still on the table. If the Cincinnati Reds would offer a minor league contract to Joey Votto, I would love to see Votto back in a Reds uniform in September. I told you at the beginning, sign him to a minor league deal unless it's absolutely necessary thanks to injuries. Then bring him up if you really need to. But then when you guys do the call-ups in September, regardless if you're in the postseason or not, you guys, bring him up. Bring Votto up. Allow him to have one more month. You have a veteran guy that can play a locker room leader and teach young guys so much in that locker room down there in AAA. But you know what? What other teams, all right, we're thinking about what other teams could possibly pick him up. Toronto would be one. Washington could be one. I could definitely see that. Third one, Miami. I don't know. But keep an eye on that. That was reporting by Bob Nightingale earlier. I believe that was earlier today. Anyways, he was posting about that. But all right, so in hour number 2, I'll tell you this. I am just reading the happy birthday to Deli Dela Cruz, who turned 22. Turned 22 earlier today. Happy birthday to him. Okay, so in hour number 2, here's how we're going to do it. I got some MLB free agents. I was looking at this list. You can just head over to MLB.com. I'm going to take a look into this list and really dig down because can the Reds pick up a couple more key additions, of course. But it's going to be crucial that if they do, they pick up the right people. And I'm like, I'm looking at the list and they could pick up some people. Baseball today, a lot of extra signings, and this is why I'm really looking at this list because there's Chicago has been doing some willing dealing here in the month of January, and to go out there on a social media and say we're done for the offseason is like, here we go again. We're back to the old Reds. When we think we're finally out of it, they bring us back in. And then we'll talk about some WWE. I really want to dive into The Rock, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, the Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, the scenarios, what can happen. It's a fun time to be a wrestling fan. The road to WrestleMania officially begins in my books. Stay tuned. Hour number 2 is coming up next. You'll listen to The Throne on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, hour number 2 here on the program is given to you thanks to Spreaker from iHeartRadio. Spreaker.com is not only an audio listening device or application, you're also allowed to upload podcasts, monetize, and view analytics. Spreaker.com provides you a uploading platform where you could distribute your podcast across many major audio platforms such as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and so much more. Be able to monetize and check out analytics as well. For more information, check out Spreaker.com. In all of our episodes, I know I have not uploaded Monday or Tuesday's episode, by the way. I'll be getting that up there sometime tomorrow, trust me. But they they really do provide a platform, unlimited hours, great content, great stuff that they work. Something I was actually looking into doing this show. I actually started this show back at the fall time football season of 22. And it was originally an audio show, and then we transitioned to an actual viewership. It's been on and off for the past, I say, about a year and a half, so to speak, between personal things that's been happening in my life and and whatnot. And so, but we just the other episode, we finally published our 100th episode of The Throne, which is due for a celebration. Yeah. So a lot of talk about there because, it is it's a grind, I tell you. And I don't like doing it on and off for the time setting, but I like to be on here as much as possible. But things happen, life happens. As a good friend of Steve Barber over that Armchair Booking Wrestling podcast has mentioned before, and I just got to say that it's been a pleasure to be able to do this, whether it's day, night, rain, or shine. It's been fun. It's been a journey. You know, I consider this more of a radio audience listening podcast. So if you guys, and this is kind of an industry that I'm actually taking favors of wanting to eventually maybe pursue or join. But we'll see what the opportunities down the road prevails. But I'm excited for what's to come, and I'll, keep on going strong. And if feel free to reach out to me. And I think the website helps too. www.tncsportstalkshow.com, where you can find all of the videos, all the audios, the blogs too. I don't do as many blogs as I want to. I want to do more. That's my thrive. That go on. It takes some time to do them, but I enjoy putting out blogs for people to read. All right, so we're talking some baseball here. And every day I'm on the MLB.com, CBS Sports. I'm under baseball, and I'm just seeing deals being made. Right. The Chicago Cubs just signed that new pitcher, Imanaga, to a 4-year, $53 million deal. You see the Yankees. I just saw this. To avoid arbitration, Juan Soto sets a new record, surpassing Shohei Ohtani last year, but signs a 1-year, $31.5 million deal this season with the New York Yankees. I'm like, man, that's crazy. And I'm just seeing, Yankees also just inked in a 2-year deal with Marcus Stroman. And as this free agents kind of are dying down. The Reds have made some free agents move throughout this year. And you're excited. I mean, I don't know if you can really get over excited about the players they signed. Nick Martinez, Frank Montes, Emilio Pagan. Okay, I could settle with Jameer Candelario. I mean, he could be an at bat for this guy, but they're really sticking around what they're capable of, what they're willing to spend, which is very cheap. But, the Reds have kind of came out earlier at the beginning of this year and said, hey, listen, we are done with the offseason. Every guy we got that's kind of it. Okay, so don't really expect too much more. And I'm like, how can you not expect more? All right, well, and this is what frustrates me as a Reds fan, as a fan who, enjoys baseball, and you've seen how close the Reds came last year. I get it, what they're trying to do. I get that they have so many young talent that they still have to bring up and develop and look. But look who's out there and available that even under a 1-year contract, you could potentially get a lot out of them. And I asked this question the other day. Could you use another at bat? Yes, you can. Never tell me you can't. And could you use another guy in the bullpen? Yes, you did. And yes, we picked up Brent Sutter. Okay, great. Congratulations. But I'm looking at this list. Drew Pomeranz, 34 years old, will be a great guy for a 1-year deal. He's a lefty, by the way. You got Alex Reyes, 29, has yet to resign. Even if these are to minor league deals. Josh Fleming, not Matt Bush. I'm just, hold on. These are the relievers. I'm kind of going back. Jake Dykman. Like I said, we're looking at maybe 1-year deals. Brian Shaw, Dinelson Lamet could be somebody. Alex Claudio at 32. Jake Woodford, Justin Wilson, Luis Trevino, And Amir Garrett can be a Reds. Brad Boxberger, Carl Edwards Jr., Aaron Loop, Phil Maton, Wandy Peralta, Adam Ottavino, Scott Alexander, Michael Fulmer, Anthony Bass. These are all just relievers, you guys. Andrew Chapman can return potentially, Liam Hendricks. And here's the thing. We're getting closer to the season. Josh Hader, Matt Moore. So we're getting closer to the season. And you're saying, okay, all these guys are great, but they're going to ask for a lot of money. And you know what? I mean, okay, so they do ask for some money. But I'm sure if they want to be on a team, they're gonna take whatever they could get. Look at starting pitching. You want to add, what about a Brad Keller, to a team? Eric Lauer, who is a free agent. And let me just go on through this. Johnny Cueto, one more year. Can we know? Could Noah Syndergaard work? Michael Lowenzen, could he work? So when we ask ourselves, Jordan Montgomery is still available. Blake Snell is still available, although I just heard that he got an official offer from the Yankees. So my point is that there's guys right now that are looking, that could be potentials that could add to the bullpen or add to the rotation. There was that conversation I heard. There was a rumor about, Joe Bauer is trying to make a Major League Baseball return, and the Reds' name popped up as a contender that could, hey, if anyone could go after this pitcher, go after this pitcher. And I'm typically one for, all right, I'm not necessarily big about bringing in someone who brings outside drama to the club. I feel like, unfortunate, and I'm not trying to be stereotypical or, I'm not trying to judge Jay Bauer. He's a good pitcher. I mean, he plays with a lot of heart and passion from my belief, maybe a little too much because he could play pretty aggressive. But could Jake Bauer eventually be a good candidate for the Reds, whether it's even in the minor leagues, as a minor league contract, as a team that could, as a player that, we know the number one source that hurts the Reds time and time again throughout the season, and that's injuries. And so if you can stock up so much on pitchers and relievers, then I really highly suggest to do so. You get into maybe outfielders that are available. I didn't necessarily think anything was wrong with Tyler Naquin. Rando Gruchek is a right fielder that we can always add to the roster here. Michael A. Taylor as well. Cody Bellinger is a huge center fielder right now. I don't know if we necessarily have anyone designated for a fielder, but Cody Bellinger, he has the speed, he has the defensibility, and he brings the bat. Okay, so if you want to maybe argue the case of Cody Bellinger versus Stuart Fairchild, I choose Cody Bellinger only because he also has the bat. Especially with, I don't think you can expect Matt McLean maybe to learn center field right away and be perfect at it, especially since he was down there in the infield majority of last season. You got Corey Dickerson there in left field, Austin Meadows. I know we just re-signed Jake Fraley, but these guys could also move around. You got Jock Peterson, who could be another guy, Jurickson Profar, Jordan Luplow. Those are just your outfielders. We picked up Jameer Candelario on a 3-year deal. He's only 30 years old. But what's the difference between him and a, let's say Gene Segura, Hunter Dozier as well? Maybe other than him playing in Chicago, what really breaks that deal? There could be the possibility that Ellie De La Cruz gets moved from short. I don't think this is more likely, but then who are your shortstops that you could potentially bring in? I don't know what are you bringing in? See, here's my question for second base. I heard, there's been rumors talking about Jonathan India, and there's a lot that you could do with him. Candelario could play first base. He could play third base. If you Jonathan India could play a little bit of second and third. He could also DH. So where, and how do you fit in a guy like Noel V. Marte? So what happens if they go down? You got a couple of second basemen. I know Spencer Steer is kind of your primary first baseman. And I get that. I like that. But, Tyler Stevenson's a backup. Luke Molly's a backup. And you start thinking about potential injuries that could occur. Royce Hoskins available. Trey Mancini's available. Luke Voigt is available. So I'm just thinking about alternatives, and these guys also provide at bats. I know we're not going back with Casali, but what about Mike Zunino as behind the plate in case, Tyler Stevenson has to do some DH? My point is that is there room on whether it's at the major league level or is at the minor league level to bring in some late transaction talent that could benefit the ball club? And my immediate answer is yes. You could always improve in your rotation. You could always improve in your bullpen. And I also strongly believe that you can add key guys and key players that does not necessarily ruin the game plan that you have. Yes, players need playing time at the major leagues. Ellie De La Cruz needs more at bats. So does Matt McClain. So does Noel V. Marte before we can start deciding if they actually belong here. Jonathan India, if you do look to trade him or whatever not, you need him to get more playing time because he needs to be traded at his peak performance. So yes, there's more room that you can bring in players. And at the same time, don't rush. I don't know the timetable for an Andrew Abbott or a Brandon Williamson. I know that the Reds will like to see them up in the majors within the next year or two. Absolutely. And I think they're solid left-handed pitchers that can build up with some playing time. But if they're not ready, don't rush them. That's why we got Nick Martinez. That's why we got Frankie Montez, so that we did not rush these guys. But it's time, but if you add on to that, it could just build more time. You're also not just building more time. You think about signing a guy down to the minor leagues, how much he can do if he's not on that 40-man roster. We talked about this with Joey Votto. If he's not on that 40-man roster, he can still pay a lot of tribute and work ethics to building a winning ball club down in the minor leagues, which is also a priority. So, I think there's still so much more time throughout the next few weeks that you'll sign so-and-so to the minor league deal. You'll invite them out to camp and they may or may not make the ball club, most likely won't. But I would be dumbfounded if to see the Reds not attempt to try to do anything. You're seeing all these transactions. You're seeing all these deals that are finalizing last month, and I can't help and be like, well, why ain't the Reds inside some of those conversations? Even if they don't pick up anybody, it's like, one thing I loved about the Padres for the longest time, they put their name in the hat. It made national news to find out, okay, they're going to the Dodgers or they're going to the Yankees. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? It's disappointing because we try and we try and we try again and we're not hitting anything. But at least our names are in those conversations on why does it not work out? Why doesn't a Jordan Montgomery not work out? Why does a Blake Snell not work out for Cincinnati? Why doesn't a Josh Hader not work out for Cincinnati? We are the best. We are the longest, baseball team in history. Why wouldn't someone want to come over to Cincinnati and say, hey, let's play some ball. Let's win a championship. then that's what I want to start talking into. I know they sound ridiculous, but we gotta be ridiculous sometimes. A lot of times we gotta be ridiculous because that's the only way we're gonna make logical sense. Let's let's preach high, even if we know we don't have the money. Let's talk about all these impossible things that one day could be possible. Because guess what? That's how the Padres landed Machado. That's how the Padres landed for Tatis Jr. and Blake Snell and Josh Hader and Alexander Bogaerts, Juan Soto last year. That's how they got the roster that they wanted to win. And guess what? If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, oh well, go back to the drawing boards. But you got to try. And I feel like the Reds are one of those conversation pieces that before the Reds are counted out before someone goes on the free agent market most of the time. Let's take a break. Let's transition. I want to talk some wrestling with you. That's all coming your way next. You guys are listening to The Throne on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right, you guys, we got to give our quick shout outs to a couple of great programs that we display on during the show. One is Canva, canva.com. I'm a subscription to Canva. I create presentations, videos, platforms. If you head over to a YouTube channel called Enlighten Studios, there is a video that was published earlier this month called Love's Not Enough, a theater play written and directed by Terry Chappell the third. And I'm gonna say this, okay? Terry, and I've been, we used to be colleagues at a former job that I used to work at. Stayed in touch, and he's a writer and director. He's done films like Crime Fighters and Love's Not Enough, and I've talked about him on our show again, did some interviews, and throughout the time, he came to me and was like, "Hey, I have the theater cast. Can I send that to you? And you could go in there and kind of edit." And I've never edited anything before. I'm not good at it. I'm telling you that. Okay. Far from good at it. But, so I kind of cut it down, kind of made it like a pre-roll and a pre-credit, post-credit scene to it, and created it, gave it back to him. He posted up the video, had to edit some more things, but things happen. So if you could check that out, but that's thanks to Canva. To break down every scene, go to Canva, did the little fine tunings and editing, and re-download it again. All the commercial breaks you see is thanks to Canva. So I want to, if you guys want to be able to create PowerPoints, presentations, videos, whatnot, Canva has vast tools to use from across their board. Also want to give a big shout out to Epidemic Sound that plays their royalty-free music here, coming back from breaks. Epidemic Sound, discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. All right, so something that kind of breaks in the WWE news. The Rock returns last week on day one on Raw. He interrupts Jinder Mahal because Jinder Mahal is heckling the fans, heckling the country, and the People's Champ is out there to defend the country, which I think is a symbolic way, even though I don't know if that's in the dictionary. There's just a patriotic source of that. But at the end of all of that, what got people hyped up and talking about for days and probably leading up to the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania is that The Rock makes a statement how he's ready to sit at the head of the table. And for people who live under the rock, let's just clarify that head of the table is taking Roman Reigns' head of the table, tribal chief position away from him. Now, this is what I want to address everything about. because there's a couple of ways to go down. Now, if you haven't heard, I saw something that said The Rock he got like a 1-match contract, and it could potentially lead into more. And a lot of people are speaking about how it's going to be The Rock and Roman at Perth, in Perth, at Elimination Chamber, non-title match. But then there's, what I can't wrap my head around is that this is a one and done deal. Why is it at Elimination Chamber? Why is it not being done at the Royal Rumble match? Or not the Royal Rumble match. Why is it not being done at WrestleMania? I know the story is simple. The Rock returns and he wants to be the head of the table. He faces Roman, and logically, this means so much more for Roman. I think he's already a Hall of Famer, but this kind of seals Roman's legacy. You talk about, Vince McMahon, and I know this is the post McMahon era, but you still talk about wrestling. When your time is up, you give, after you pay your dues, you get up there, you have your success, and when it's time, you give back. So I could only imagine that The Rock will be willing to give back. It doesn't mean much to him if he loses or wins. What means much is about bringing in the money, and that's selling the audience of the storyline. The storyline's flat out written there for the most part. See, I'm writing that story between Rock and Roman, giving Dwayne Johnson a reason to come back and step foot into the ring. Is not just about a dream match. Is not just about passing down that stone. This isn't The Rock and Hogan. It's about, there has to be a reason on why The Rock will put his Hollywood career aside to come back to the WWE and address this matter. And the matter is Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, this dominating faction that's been been running SmackDown, been running Raw for a few years now. Now, if I'm writing this story and I'm putting this story together, okay, better late than never. Okay, this is out of all the dream matches that you can come up with. This is the one I want to see because there's so much writing on it. There's so much heat and tense, and nothing's even happened yet. They've never came face to face in this situation yet. So if I'm telling this story, what's the reason why Rock is coming back? To be at the head of the table. Why does he want to be at the head of the table? The only thing that comes to my mind is because the Roman has to do something corrupted that is against the Owani's family, that is against the bloodline, against family, against the tribal chief shield, right? Against being at the head of the table here. Roman Reigns has to do something corrupted. And maybe that is exerting power. Maybe that is getting too big for his britches and it's starting to get to him that this family means nothing anymore. Because you got to remember, Roman built this family together not only for a family success, but so that they can, so that he can be protected when it comes to that title. That is my storyline on why The Rock comes back. He comes back and he tells Roman, look, you claim that you're the head of the table. You got family permission that you are the next one in that factor. But guess what? You have crossed the line. You have crossed boundaries that just does not settle with the family. So I'm here to put you in your place. And, if it's a one and done deal, Roman goes over. And I feel like, to me, that's a laughing stock. Because you build this up and it would be a great match. It would probably be a 4 or 5-star match on the docks. But for me, I'm looking at it, I'm like, you build this up for a short time period, and this is what you get. And if it is a one-time deal, this is where I argue there's only two places it could be possibly held at. WrestleMania, which is probably the more dumbfounded no-brainer to suggest, or two, it needs to probably be at Survivor Series. But there's a twist side to it, because it looks like that The Rock could sign up for a couple extra matches for this feud to gravitate to. Maybe The Rock wins this match, or The Rock wins, or maybe Roman wins the first match by cheating and beats The Rock by cheating. Therefore, The Rock comes in and ends up costing Roman a title. There's that conspiracy of a triple threat match where Cody beats The Rock and Roman, where then you can still have a feud. It gets a little twisted, because now let's step into Cody Rhodes' story, because he's trying to make this big circle back around to Roman Reigns, which he's done a lot this past year. One thing that really held him back last year was the fact that he got hurt. Now I feel like he's definitely earned himself not only a title shot, but a chance at the championship. And listen, I tell you, Roman Reigns is bigger than any title right now. That's the level he's at. Roman does not need a title right now in order to tell a story. And he's that caliber at this moment. I think he's deserved it. And with that being said, Roman can continue a non-title story, and now he's technically the guy to beat. Brock Lesnar ran around the WWE for the past decade being the guy to beat. You beat Brock Lesnar and you get a chance to have a match with him, and you go and you handle yourself pretty well. Like we saw, who did we see that with? I'm drawing a blank here, but you go throw yourself with Brock Lesnar or with Austin Theory. That's the guy who I was thinking of. You go throw yourself with Brock Lesnar, and you could go toe to toe. And even if you win or lose, you stay in there with him. He was the guy to be in the ring with. Roman Reigns is that guy now that if you want to be in the ring with, at some point, that you have to compete with if you want to make it in the WWE. If you want to be somebody in the WWE, it's going to go down to Braun Breaker at some point. I call him Brian Pillman Jr., whatever his name is in NXT. Roman Reigns is that caliber that you go toe to toe with him, you beat him, and you get that initiation. The Undertaker was that guy for that longest time. So Cody Rhodes, I think, has earned that title shot once more. And I think it's time to give it to him, because I think it's time for SmackDown to make that transition. Roman is, there's a lot of it factors that plays into it. I know I'm probably speaking out of term and all over the place, but look at this. Cody Rhodes could have a feud with Randy Orton and have a feud with Roman Reigns. Those are two big tie topic stories that people will come in, buy, sell, and see. That is your WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series main event. You think about maybe Randy Orton coming to an end of his career, maybe one last final singles run potentially. And I can't help but think that Cody Rhodes could be the guy to retire the legend killer. So to see that feud with the next 2, maybe 3 years, as long as everyone stays healthy, I think is a great sight. Roman Reigns has been on top of the WWE for the last 3, 4, 5 years now. And I think it's time that he drops that title. I understand that his contract has been renegotiated to kind of favor him in his appearances and the amount of time that he competes. But it only does harm to the title the longer you keep it up on the shelf collecting dust. And he takes it down maybe 5, 6 times a year to put it up on the line. When you see a title in the World Heavyweight Championship in Seth Rollins that is showed up every night, 5 days a week, and is defended 4 of those 5 days, which is something that I still take more, and I take more acknowledgement to, in all honesty. Like I said, Roman has created a caliber where he doesn't need the title anymore. He can still he still has this great family feud and this great family bloodline story that he could fall back on. He will still get a pop when he leaves. I think it's time for him to take a vacation. I think it's time to see a change. You could always put the title back on him when he comes back, if it doesn't work out. But you're also now creating more feuds for Cody and for that title alone on SmackDown, which could help elevate SmackDown even further. Talk about guys like Randy, LA Knight. There's just so many guys on that SmackDown roster that you can see going after the title. They'll probably have an incredible match with Cody Rhodes. But let's continue this conversation as we get to bottom out of the program. Last break of the night. You guys are listening to The Throne on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right, let's remind everyone that we will be back here tomorrow night to wrap up our 3rd episode of the week. And so be sure to tune on in to The Throne. I'm going to say about 10 o'clock, same time. This is, like I said, this is the time slot that we selected because everyone's kind of sleeping or should be heading to bed. Only time I have really free to end the night. We can talk about all these sports. And man, it's been a crazy show already. And I was not expecting to cover a whole lot of football after we talked about Nick Saban retiring, Bill Belichick and Pete Rose jump onto the head coaching market. We talked about what the Cincinnati Reds could do. And now we're just shooting the breeze with some scenarios from the WWE that we could potentially see, especially involving Roman Reigns, The Rock, and Cody Rhodes. I mean, it's just the 3-way triangle that I am throwing together. A lot of scenarios, the what if, and it gets very confusing very easily. And I'm sure this last segment was just that. All I know is that for Roman, he is surpassing post Royal Rumble, which, by the way, he will be defending his title in a fatal 4-way match against LA Knight, Randy Orton, and AJ Styles. And I love the way that SmackDown went off air was when Nick Aldis pulled Paul Heyman to the side at ringside while the bloodline, including Roman Reigns, completely annihilated all 3 members that was contending for a number 1 contender spot and announced that, hey, listen, wish him good luck, congratulate him because he just earned himself a fatal 4-way match for interfering in that match. And I think that's just just that angle alone says so much of how WWE could go down this year alone in 2024. And, I'd come to argue that the WWE has played a huge part in a turnaround that makes people want to tune back in. And I mean tune back in. officially joining and merging with TKO alongside with UFC. Vince McMahon officially stepping away from business. Triple H getting the full-on realms. And we've seen a lot of great stuff last year. But just imagine what we're seeing. I think one of the greatest things that I'm seeing this year, especially out of the WWE, while we see other independent wrestling companies kind of get brought to the light, brought to the table, right? Brought to the surface and recognized through television deals, through media rights. AEW is, still growing. I believe it was NWA was getting a television deal. And you're seeing wrestling grow. But then you're seeing WWE taking it that next step further and expanding their margins. I know this was talked about a decade ago. And I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I think it still rubs plenty of people the wrong way. But when the WWE lurked themselves in the Saudi Arabia contract, we're like, oh no, what WWE? What are you guys doing? Oh my goodness, you can't make the same mistake. Well, just look at all the doors that has opened up. We're now taking wrestling international. We're seeing plenty of pay-per-views and premium live events go across seas, which I think is a credible deal. I mean, we're reaching sky levels that we have never reached before in professional wrestling. And of course, guys like Dwayne Johnson, of course, guys like John Cena and Goldberg, or maybe Brock Lesnar would want to be a part of that. They did a little bit here and there decades ago, but it wasn't nothing very seriously. But now they're taking pay-per-views across seas and they're expanding their margin. And with that being said, could we see a dream match in Brock and Roman in Australia at Elimination Chamber? Yes, we could. Is that where I prefer it to go down? No. I don't prefer it to be in Australia, especially if it's a one and done deal. Now, if they set up to be a series of matches, sure, why not? But here's the main question that lurks Roman Reigns. I believe he's ready to take some time off. I don't know about you. That's what I think. Which means one of the things you have to do is put him in a position where he drops that title by any means necessary. Even if you have some sort of outside interference that cost him the title. Get the title off of him. Does that title come off of The Rock? And no. There's no purpose to see Dwayne Johnson have that title again. And it does not make any sense, logical sense to me, to take the title off of a part-timer that I consider Roman Reigns is right now to another part-timer in The Rock. Just does not make any sense to me. And it doesn't make sense to put the title on him for a month or even a week and then take it off of him. I just think that's a bunch of wasted time. There are other ways that you could potentially go down that route. But I think it's important that either by WrestleMania or by Backlash, okay, that title definitely gets taken off of Roman because he's bigger than the title. So what does that mean? We could see Roman, and then the next thing is that he's about to break another record. He's about to be within the Elite 5, which is Hulk Hogan, Bob Backlund, and Bruno Sammartino. And I just don't know how much longer can Roman Reigns or the WWE will allow him to go. Now, yes, the WWE has Seth Rollins, and he's doing a really good job, and I'm thinking that title may eventually transition off of him by WrestleMania. And I don't know how the reaction, if it's going to be as hype as the current run that Rollins is having. But I'm open to options and opportunities. But does Roman drop? I mean, you got to ask yourself, how much longer does Roman carry this title? How many more records is he breaking? For one. I mean, is he going after Hulk Hogan? And would the WWE allow him to break Hulk Hogan's record? And now, because now you're talking about an extra year or even 2 years, if that, just to even get to Hogan's record. Then you're thinking about Bruno Sammartino, and I just don't think you're breaking that. And I'm not saying it can't be done. I just don't logically see that happening, with the age, with his health condition, and honestly, unless they emphasize this more of a global championship where, this is really compete, defend anytime, anywhere like Seth Rollins does, then I don't see it falling into place. So then we ask ourselves, well, every year we're asking ourselves, who could be that one to defend or to finally not only pin and defeat Roman Reigns in a single match action, we're also asking everyone who could be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. Well, now that's broken up into two categories. One who can dethrone Roman Reigns and his championship and take it from him, and then who can dethrone Roman Reigns as the head of the table. We've obviously seen The Rock at it. We're now also seeing now we're kind of lurking back into Cody Rhodes, and has he earned enough to gain another title shot? And I think so too. But you can but it doesn't have to be Cody Rhodes. This year we can see Finn Balor. We can see a CM Punk. We can see an AJ Styles or a Randy Orton at Mania, which will give a really good caliber match. But then, I don't see any of them dethroning Roman Reigns or giving them a reason to dethrone Roman Reigns, which then leads to, well, he'll keep on keeping it. And then this story that you see, Punk getting a title shot before Cody, and Punk hasn't even had a match yet in the WWE. You've seen The Rock make his return and getting a shot at Roman Reigns, and Cody has worked his ass off for the last year trying to get back to where he is now. And yet you're not throwing it. It would be unethical to not throw him into a title position. He has to be a main event. But then if you do see Cody Rhodes, and Roman part 2, if you do see The Rock and Roman, if it's not at Elimination Chamber, you see it at WrestleMania, how does that go down? Because then do you see Roman beat The Rock at Elimination Chamber and then see Cody beat Roman Reigns right after at WrestleMania? Does that work? How does that story play out? And this is what's fun right now. We're sitting the 11th day of January. All this stuff out that we may or may not be able to see. And I think that's just crazy. It causes for a lot of excitement. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. You think about this, Royal Rumble's coming up. People are entering themselves into the Rumble. I know Punk and Cody Rhodes is in there. What could happen? And then road to WrestleMania. And it's going to be here before you all know it. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. So, all right. Great show tonight. Want to thank everyone who tuned in. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Check out our website over at www.tncsportstalkshow.com, where you can check out all of our latest videos, audio podcast, and our blogs. We will wrap up the week tomorrow, Friday, January 12th. So come back tomorrow night, where we will talk heavily about the Super Wild Card Weekend. That's all I have for you guys this evening. My name is Justin. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Throw-In. Until next time, thank you guys for checking out the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Take care. Have a great night.